Okay, I'd like to open the North Beach Planning Commission session for 25 July 2024. On the agenda today is three items. We have a 4008 4th Street replat. We have the comprehensive plan element review and zoning ordinance Article 3 update discussion. And so let's go ahead and take a look at the replat that's in front of us.
Bill, first there's a set of minutes to approve. And Rick's gonna present the 2023 annual state report that's required every year for
Okay.
commission's approval.
Okay, that's not on the agenda though, but we're good.
It is.
Let's go over the minutes then.
The reports and board docs for the planning report.
I had no edits on the minutes. That's because I wasn't intended, so.
Was it there?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's the bottom of the bar.
Rick, did you want to go over the minutes or anything?
I'm good with the minutes.
Does anybody have any questions about the minutes? Anybody want to approve the minutes as written? I don't know. Are they there?
Just a comment first. Thank you very much for adding in the discussion review piece.
Oh, you're welcome.
I don't remember. An agreement with the church. You?
That was just what was mentioned.
What?
Um,
On that accessory, the very last item, the accessory. I don't remember the
Yeah.
church agreeing.
Oh,
So-
no. Says or, owners meet the requirements or have an agreement. And there's a precedent for that.
This is it. Current owners have an agreement with the church to utilize the back parking lot. I don't remember that being.
Um,
That is correct. They do. They have an agreement with the church. They park back there. The current owners.
Okay.
do. That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
But she agreed to withdraw the tax throw. You liked it. Okay.
Yes, you did agree. That you ignored that, but I think that's reflected in the video.
In the video?
The
Oh,
Video of the meeting,
oh, okay.
so there is a record of that in the video.
Hmm, are you looking at the video now?
No, there,
Yeah.
Jennifer is
Oh,
correct. Jennifer is correct in what she stated. This is just, it's just a summary of what was stated. And you were discussing the outside usage on the apron for food trucks. The inside with the axe throwing was totally separate from the outside. You were approving just the outside usage.
Right.
But you can go back and watch the video and you can certainly hear the discussion about the axe throwing again.
It's just that it isn't a specific sentence in the discussion review, but it does show up in the video.
Okay.
If people watch the video. And I think if they see axe throwing and they're interested enough, they'll watch the video.
Okay. Make a motion to approve the minutes from the June 27th planning commission meeting. As written.
Okay,
Let's take a vote on that. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Minutes approved as submitted. All right, that's what's our next order here?
If you could look at the annual report. 2 small pages, it's what we have to turn in every year. It basically goes over new residential permits that were approved by the planning commission, goes up to the state planning. Last year you had 5, including 4 new houses and 1 addition. There were no new updates to zoning that had to do with
Let me get my glasses. Can you put that up on the screen for me? Yeah.
where is that in board docs?
right under the minutes.
You might need to hop back out of Board Docs and pop back in.
Okay,
Sometimes it gets updated and if you're previously logged in, it doesn't.
yeah, okay. Cause I'm not seeing it.
I thought we all have. Completed the Maryland Planning Commissioners Association training. And we all? Okay.
Rick, have I done that? I think I did. That was online.
I can go online and look if it
Okay.
is. You have to call and have them update it because it doesn't have your names listed.
Well,
On
they
the
did that-
website.
Whatever it was online that,
I assume you're ready to.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm good. Keep going.
While you guys did have the zoning, Article 3 did change. There was no growth related changes in the ordinance or anything else. They didn't change any zoning. It was just, that's why that check mark is no. We didn't rezone anything, no new schools, no annexations.
This is a yearly report.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's reading through the draft plan that we're looking to look at or the update. It mentions how the town has run through a series of upgrades that met previous comprehensive plan. So this is independent of that, or,
This is every year,
okay, all right,
and this is specifically for residential permits
Okay.
that have been issued in priority funding areas. All of North Beach is within a priority funding area for Calvert County.
okay. Yep. And that's the online, course that I thought we all posted up,
Yeah.
but, okay,
Yeah, I can go back and check. It has a link on there where you can see people that are approved and not approved.
okay,
And I'll send you all out individual emails if you'd like.
yes, please.
Yeah.
Off the top of your head, can you remember how long that cert holds?
I know like Jerome's is still in there.
Okay.
There's some people and Bill, you may be in there. I think your name was on there, but so it goes back quite a ways.
Okay, I just, you
I'll
know,
I'll pull it up.
yeah,
in the
if you
morning.
could, just tell us what,
Tell us what,
because in case it's a 2-year thing or 3, you know,
Okay,
that we get back at it and,
if I can email everybody individually and then we can go from there to make sure we get it straightened.
all right, thank you.
And so if you guys approve of this report, then I can send a copy up to the state and to the council.
I'll raise the motion that we approve the report, the annual report that we submitted to the state.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so that brings us to the
Replat.
replat.
You all might be familiar with this house. It's across from the Boys and Girls Club. It caught fire about a month and a half ago. It was not salvageable. Scott Properties is now proposing to do 2 lots. Proposal for the replat meets all of the current zoning for width and square footage.
Is IDA.
Intensely developed area.
So today we're not proving any building or housing, we're just proving that they.
Just the subdivision
property.
of the lot into 2 lots.
Okay. And what about, you don't use graphics, will there be a tap form for 2, now you got 2
If he
houses,
proposed the second house on the other lot at this time, he would have to purchase another tap if one is available,
if one's available,
if one is available.
okay. Otherwise, you can't. So. Are any of them available?
We do have taps available at this
Okay.
time.
Backs into the alley. 4th Street. I'm not worried about anything like that, just.
Yeah, just squaring splitting it up. Or combining. Alright, so that's, and then that's, so you have here, it's two same size lots then. Okay,
The current zoning ordinance requires a minimum of 37.5 feet.
Yep.
And a minimum lot size of 3,500 square feet. So it exceeds the minimum square footage and will meet the 37.5 foot.
anybody got any extra comments on this one? This looks pretty straightforward. It aligns with the code and, we're supposed to try to infill in the IDA areas. So I think that this one's pretty straightforward.
That's not in the book.
It is not, it is outside of the floodplain. Just across the street, but it is outside.
So. You wanna,
Yeah.
I'll bring up the motion that we, approve the, replat for 4008 4th Street. From one lot into two. Each lot measuring 37.5 by 105 feet.
I'll have to amend that. I think it's three. Is that three lots, Rick?
Me too.
No, but it was three.
Yeah, two,
We're
it was
going-
325s.
Okay, so I just want to clarify, we're going from three lots to
Okay.
two.
Can I edit that motion?
You could edit to say approve as submitted.
Okay, then, I'm gonna submit a motion to, replot the three lots 28, 29, and 30 into two lots, each measuring 37.5 by 105 feet.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that replat passes. Appreciate the sketch on that one. That was easy to go over, so.
So the next item is the comprehensive plan. My goal was to get it to you so you guys can look at it, have some time to get that this week. And then go over it over the next couple of weeks to make any comments for our next meeting. We also met with the consultant, so we will have a schedule out to you for meeting dates. The anticipation is we will have this wrapped up by the end of the year and have a final product to you shortly to go over. These three elements right now are at the state for state comments.
Could you just, so how do you want us to post up our comments? What's the easiest way for,
You can write them and submit them, and then we can put them in the board docs. Is that probably the best way, Stace?
Sorry, I was writing something.
That's okay.
Yes, we can put everyone's comments in board docs, or we could do a Google Docs. There's several ways that we can do it.
Yeah, so whatever's easiest for you, you can either email everything to me, or we can put a Google Doc together and send it out, and everybody can update the same document.
okay,
How do you want to tackle it by? The elements you want to prioritize any of the three? that
Well, I
were
mean,
sent?
earlier, prior to moving away from this, working on this at every meeting, you guys did a bunch of worksheets and other things that had to do with the housing, land use, and the water resources. So all of that information has already been updated.
Yep.
The consultant has also added any new census data that he was able to collect that would filter into any of these. And any new legislation that was passed has been updated as well. So,
In terms of the review, do we want to target, water resources for one meeting or land use for another or just,
I think if you want to give your comments, we can probably try and do them all in one meeting. I don't think there was a drastic rewrite on anything. But I guess after you read through them, then if it looks like there's one that's gonna be longer than the other, then we'll split them up.
Okay, we'll make sure our comments ID which section and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
So
if
you
it
know.
looks like that it's gonna take more than one
Okay.
meeting, then we'll do that. I'd like to shoot for one meeting if it's possible. And if we have to go farther or longer, then we can.
Can I make a suggestion that maybe we do this like a Saturday, so we're not maybe longer than, I know 2 hours is a lot. But maybe if you need to do it in one day, that you could do a Saturday morning and have like a 3-hour meeting, try to take an hour for each element. So it's not so late in the evening to work on this.
Saturday's good for me.
I think it would be easier if everybody's making comments on the same document though, because that way
Yeah.
we can see, like, somebody else may be saying the same thing that we're thinking. And then nobody has to collate all of the comments because they're already all in one place.
That's why we can make it a Google Doc.
Yeah.
All right, I'll work with Stacy and we'll get just a generic document set up and then you guys can each add comments as you want.
Okay, Rick, well, I'll put that for us to work on Monday if you're in the office next week. I haven't looked at the calendar.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to look and see.
can we submit comments based on the review now to kick off the Google Doc?
Yeah.
We've already basically done some reviews, right?
Sure.
Rather than wait.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which one? No, I brought this one. I don't know if I brought the other ones with me.
I mean, you could email them as well, and then we can take your comments and put them into the initial document and then send that out.
I may have to, I mean, if I can't work this on my computer at home, the Google Doc, it should be able to, just have to figure it out. Otherwise, I'll just,
If not, you can
List
make
out
your
all my-
comments and
yeah.
then send them in and we can add them to the document.
Okay. So more to follow that. We'll make sure we get everybody, once you put out tentative, schedule, we'll get, everybody has some stuff already to start reviewing. So
Right.
I started looking through it. So
Awesome.
yeah, it's a pretty good package. So I only had a few nits at this point. So.
So far,
No, I was diving into the, how you, the design loads and stuff for subsidence and all that other stuff. So let's then move on to the zoning ordinance Article 3 update.
so
Discussion.
we started going through this last time and we never really came to conclusion. It was kind of tabled to finish up this time. And then when I spoke with Celia earlier, she reminded me she would make sure I had it in here. So I think it's highlighted. So if we want to just go down each one and determine whether we want to make the change or not, then I can change the document and we can get a recommendation for council for approval.
Well, you have to, there's a few other steps. They make the recommendation to the council and then a joint public hearing is set with the council and the planning commission before you can make any changes to the zoning ordinance. There's a few other steps incorporated that must be met. So you're initially sending the council a package to review, and then they will set the public hearing with the planning commission.
I don't know why my comments aren't coming up on the document. Will come up when you click on it.
I have them up. You want to pull up here?
No, you can read them. I just, for some reason, it's not coming up on the iPad. Thank you. Just as long as you guys can see the comments still, that's fine.
Rick, are your comments the highlighted in the orange color?
Yes,
Okay. I just wanted to make that clear for everyone.
That's old.
I think the first one, I already know what that one was. I think that's supposed to say Board of Appeals, not Planning Commission.
Correct.
And the next one. The single family detached. In the roof chart.
Where, you know, this is where you can have that discussion about whether or not the town or planning commission had already put out that in the commercial district, the CM district, that any new builds or, you know, rehabs are going to be, gotta have retail on the bottom, some kind of business on the bottom.
Yeah, I think.
That
we
can be
should
a part
just
of the
go-
condition?
yeah, it can. I mean, but let's go down them in order. So
Okay.
you all agree that
Which one?
ask for special exception should read by the Board of Appeals, not by the Planning Commission. The Board of Appeals approves special exception.
73,
You need to make recommendations.
17, 200.
You make the recommendation, they approve.
Okay. Oh, and I do have, let me make sure, yeah. Nowhere can I find 17-3-300.
3-300.
Nope,
-300.
I keep going back to where it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be. And it doesn't have 300, it has 301.
Yeah.
So does that need to be corrected?
No,
Because that's brought up in S and SC as well. And in C. Yeah, wherever you mentioned 300.
Oh, you're on your paper copy on page 2.
Well, no, but when you go to reference 17-3-300, go back a few more pages to where that's, because it references something. That's gonna be back on page, nope, not 14, maybe 13. It doesn't have a part 3, okay, page 6. And then it goes to part 3. Then you should have 17-3-300,
Karen,
but it doesn't exist.
Karen, can I ask you a question?
Go to page 6. 6 of 17.
Well, we'll ask the attorney, 'cause I think it looks like it's just a typographical error, or it should say 13-300, not 13-301,
Well, let me see, the next one is,
13-400.
well, either way, it has to be changed or fixed.
One of them does, yeah.
Yeah. Then it jumps to,
I would say Karen.
Karen, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm sorry.
So part of this ordinance references 3-301. And it looks like it's a typographical error because there is no 301, it's 300. Are typo errors allowed to be corrected without the regular process, or is?
If it's in fact, if that is in fact the case, but we have to go through and make that connection. So where would I find that that is in fact the case?
On page 3, it referenced, in accordance with section 17-3-300. So I went to go to that section to see, what it said, and it doesn't exist. On
Okay.
page 6,
And so you're looking at 17-3-200C.
no, on page 3, C, S, and SC all reference 17-3-300. But it's nowhere in the document.
And so Rick, I think what you're saying is 17-3-301 should be 17-3-300.
Correct. Does it go 17-3-200 land districts by use?
Right.
And then it lists 17-301, then 17-400. So I think that the one is just a typographical error that was not caught.
Right, I was scrolling down just to make sure there was no other section after that that would conflict with it, but yes, I think you can make that change.
Okay. There you go.
Well, that's good. Is that you or me?
So the discussion around the single family detached. What was my comment for discussion on that one?
Condition, but no conditions.
Conditional and in the CM, but no conditions are listed. For single family detached, no paragraph for single family detached that lists conditions.
Yeah, so it's listed as having conditions. But you don't have any written.
Right.
Or Same is true under utility building facility. All of them special exception. With no,
So those are like a vacation rental. You would make a recommendation to approve, and then they would go to the Board of Appeals.
go back up to S. Special exception. Authorized by the Board of Appeals. And subject to certain conditions listed in 17-3-404.
Okay, so you're eliminating planning commission. Right? Or you want to eliminate planning commission and put,
No, what I'm gonna rewrite it to be in that section is gonna say authorized by Board of Appeals with Planning Commission recommendation.
So that stays the way it is. So I just go through my comments that I copied everybody on, or how do you want to go?
well,
The next one I had was bed and breakfast, where you have S, and I question whether it should be SC. Because
haven't
we
finished
have a-
single family detached yet.
Okay.
Do you want to make, so in the CM zone, that again deals with whether you want to have single family detached allowed at all.
well, in the CM, you already have single detached homes.
Right? But this wouldn't deal with anything that's current. Anything that's current is allowed. This would deal with anything going forward.
So in other words, if there is an existing single family and somebody tears it down and wants to put something else up, can they replace it with a single family detached?
With the
Like on
condition
Third
that the
Street.
bottom be retail, otherwise what you're saying is no, all those, if a single family home. They wanna rebuild, they're gonna have to build, it's gonna be nothing but. Apartments and condos or actual, commercial altogether. I would think that would totally take away from the whole vision of North Beach. You want the boutique style, that a house looking with retail in it or something like that. You don't want, industrial style.
You know, my point was, we had something on Third Street where there was a residence. And it was torn down and they wanted to build a residence to replace it,
Mhm.
and they weren't allowed. They had to put retail on the bottom.
Right, which is what I thought in the commercial mix, which is what I thought the intent was by this board years ago. But that's not being allowed right now because on Chesapeake Avenue, right, but, okay, because there's a miswording in the way it was written.
Did we do that? Well, first of all, I was not on the commission when you all did that. When we sent this to the council initially, did they change this?
I don't think they can just arbitrarily change things without coming back and saying they want to change something, right?
I know I wanted it to see because of more or less I'm gonna call it Diane Burr's house. Where there are people who wanted to buy that house and it was not a fixable house, so they're gonna have to tear it down and rebuild. And it was historically a single family home and they wanted to put back a single family home. But because it sat so long and it went through like probate and the bank and foreclosure and all kinds of different things, it no longer had single family use of occupancy.
Okay,
So it had to be what it is now, which is commercial on the first floor and then 3 massive condos. So instead of having a single family home with possibly 2 cars with off-street parking, you now have 3 condo units and a commercial unit taking up parking. And then if you look across the street, you have these 3 little cottages
right.
that if anybody ever buys those and says, I want to make this a bigger house for my family, right? Like before that, you couldn't. Guess what? You have to put commercial below and then housing above.
Well, that was the intent. That was, you wanted commercial on the bottom,
Right.
retail on the bottom.
And that was the thing where I understand that was the intent. There was also a push also from board, we need to have more commercial, more high density. And then we're looking at other things of, you're now doing high density, we don't necessarily have the taps to support that high density at this point in time. You have houses where that cottage somebody could die, and then it sits there and it's vacant, and then somebody couldn't technically move back in then because it lost its residency use.
Wait a minute, you're losing me.
Can we have Karen talk? So this
Yes.
was, Karen, this is that issue that came up with the use where we had in the ordinance where it said if mixed use, and then we had the other single family residential uses that didn't have a commercial component still allowed in that same area. Can you talk to the board about how that legal discussion was had?
I do wish that I could recall exactly what that was, but that was a really long time ago. So if you could point me to the section of the code, perhaps we can go from there.
So let's see. So if you look at page 7,
Yes,
B. It has the multifamily and it has in parentheses, when mixed use, that multifamily would be located on the 2nd floor and above.
correct. So the discussion I believe that we had was with regard to the W2 zone. And when mixed use, seemed to imply that there's also situations when there's not mixed use, right? At least that's what I recall. And Rick, I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared to address this tonight. I didn't realize, I guess that I needed to go back and review that particular question. So if you want me to research exactly what we had talked about and what was said, I can do that and do a quick memo or something to the planning commission so that they are aware of what the nature of that conversation was.
But what we're discussing is in the CM, not the W2.
So even if it was in the CM, it says when in mixed use. It says when mixed use, doesn't say
Mhm.
must be mixed use. You also have permitted in the CM townhouses, which are just fully permitted, which have no commercial aspect to them whatsoever.
Well, that's another note I have. But, that's then a question that I'd like to see addressed, because the idea, again, the intent was that in the commercial mixed use area, and primarily that's 7th Street and some of Chesapeake Avenue,
All Chesapeake Avenue,
okay,
all
a
the way
single
to
family
7th
home that's gonna be redone. The, should have some kind of, bottom floor, have some kind of commercial aspect to it. Cause that
So
was
you
what,
would want to- So your recommendation would be that townhouses would not be allowed, that duplexes would not be allowed
in commercial mixed use,
in the CM. Yeah.
yeah, I would hope not. But, I mean, a townhouse, if a single house is coming down, you're not gonna be able to put a cluster of townhouses on that property. So that doesn't even come into play here. A single family house is gonna come down, or they're gonna make major repairs or renovations to it. You can only be able to build unless they bought the whole street out, which could happen.
Yeah, that's a definite issue if they bought multiple adjacent lots.
And then they could put their they could put their condos and all like that, there, I guess, but I'm just looking at a single detached house, and however we have to word it, only to meet the intent of what the board wanted. And I wasn't here at that time either, but I'm very concerned about commercial in this town. That's a high interest of mine, which, either way, it's gotta be clarified, because I know of people who were told that they had to have retail on the bottom, they couldn't redo their homes, and they accepted it. And now other people are being told, you don't have to do retail on the bottom. So we gotta get it totally, clarified.
How far up Bay does the CM district go?
Bay Avenue,
It did, on Bay Avenue, it doesn't, because it's that waterfront, 1 and
that's
2.
1 and 2, but there's commercial district on Bay Avenue
The yellow. is
after
CM on
7th
that.
Street.
Yeah. So it impacts 3rd Street, part of 2nd Street.
Seventh Street past Bay. And then goes almost all the way down to 8th Street.
The council changed it to C in March of 22.
What did they change?
It was missing. It was like in CM, single family detached was not there. In March of 22, we passed adding it to C. And in that meeting, I think we might have talked about conditions of the ones leading up to that. But I don't think the conditions got written down. So I know one of mine I stated was if it was previously a single family, like if it was previously a single family resident,
Right.
then it could be rebuilt as a single family residence. Like once it went commercial, like it was something in that meeting. It just never got written down and back to you guys to final it out with the conditions.
Well, then that kind of defeats the whole purpose of trying to bring in business. And bring in, you know, the commercial mixed use area. If you're gonna have all single family homes.
But the condition was if it was previously a single family home. So if you look in that zone, there are not many that are currently single family homes.
Also,
On 7th Street, just about everything,
On-
other than a couple of the places. There's like, I don't know, half of 7th Street
On 7th Street now,
between
you have
Bay and commercial.
the,
Five.
yeah,
No,
you have
5
five.
that are commercial
Uh,
or that are not commercial. Not commercial, yeah. So they could all just be built up as houses.
Actually, there's four. One is mixed use, one has a law office in it. So there's only four.
Yeah, he says he has, yeah.
the
Um,
other piece of that is that a lot of those houses aren't new construction, they're original construction.
Right,
And one of our pushes is to try and keep as much original construction to maintain the character of the town. So when we change stuff like this, then some of the oldest houses in town
hmm
are involved.
But if they're going to tear down their single family, the single detached home to put in a new single family, then the history is gone.
But that's where the design standards should.
It's still gone, that history.
Okay,
So, but the bottom, you know, it's whatever the board decides at this point, but it needs to be clarified and made very, if someone can tear down a single family home in this smack in the middle of the commercial area and build like these big homes now that are coming up that are getting approved everywhere, then, you know, you're gonna push away the commercial.
I think we also need to understand that the board here makes recommendations.
Right.
And the council is a legislative body, so even though
Absolutely.
you make a recommendation, they can make whatever changes. that they
Right,
want.
and if the council wants some single-family detached homes to be rebuilt in the commercial district as single-family detached homes, then that's what the council does. But it's gotta be clarified. You know, the intent was one thing,
My concern was you have townhouses which are fully permitted. You have other single-family aspect properties that do not have or are not
Rick,
required to have commercial
a
aspects.
single-family detached home, if I tore down my building, let's say it wasn't commercial, but I made sure it was. And if I tore down my building and I said, I'm gonna build a townhouse, it's still gonna be a single detached house. You can call it a townhouse, you can call it whatever you want, but it's still,
That would be just a tall, single-family home.
absolutely.
But doesn't that cause us some additional heartburn again, because so leading into the comprehensive plan review, as you go through that, and I was looking back at some of our old applications, et cetera, so a lot of times we have the friction between the end of one zone to another. Right, because the setbacks and utilities and all that stuff, screening in residential is different than when you're budding commercial. So now you drop a pure residential into a commercial zone. Is that conditional? In other words, like,
Well, I think what Mickey was saying is we don't have any empty lots
right,
per se. Well, we do. We have Third Street is completely empty.
I guess my point was every time we've had to tackle mixed use or resident, even grandfathered residents up against the commercial, you've got these other things that have to happen, even if it's just a parking lot, right? You're supposed to have screening and all these.
Yeah.
So I'm saying if you dump that in there without conditions, that makes it very,
Well, I think that's what my
it's
comment was.
embedded,
like,
it's an
there's-
embedded compliance problem, right? We're
Like-
already,
If we're gonna allow it, you need to, and list it as having conditions, we need to figure out what those conditions are.
okay, okay. So
What does
that's,
it become once it becomes commercial on the first floor and residential? And what is it? Is it residential or is it commercial? And what happens to
It's
parking?
mixed use.
Mixed use.
Mhm.
Okay, and is the same parking requirements are there for residential, or does that go away because of the commercial?
well, I know for sure it would change your setbacks but
Yeah.
the parking is a good question on that piece. And I hate to throw another item on this one, but when I was looking back through, okay, so home occupation. Like, so if I have an old house, I push it over and I make a 3-story standalone townhouse. But you know, I'm working from home, I got a professional shingle up. Does that meet the intent of that area?
I think it would.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just,
That's what this.
so maybe
lawyer
that's
guy
what we're
is,
talking about conditions, and we're gonna
The
come up.
one on 7th Street, that's what he's claiming that he's,
Okay.
his law office is downstairs with his ski-doo and boats and other things.
Oh, God bless him, you can
yeah.
type it out while he's riding. I mean, that's-
But yeah, that would meet the intent.
Okay.
I think initially it was like to bring artists in and they would have like their little galleries downstairs or their studios downstairs and live above it, but because there was at one point a talk about making 7th Street sort of a art district, an art sort of focus
Well,
area.
I don't think home occupation will cover your commercial aspect.
Okay,
It wouldn't?
No, it does not. The definition is any activity carried out for compensation by a resident as an accessory use in their dwelling
okay,
unit.
all right.
So accessory use would not be a full commercial aspect to the building. Home occupation would be. a
So that would apply to
Seamstress
artists.
who
Oh,
sews
they're going-
dresses on the weekend.
Well, I guess the reason I was thinking about that was, you know, and I guess I can't remember which board I was on.
But aren't they doing
But
all
if
that?
the intent
That's
was to get a mixed,
Yeah.
you know, kind of that there are plenty of examples of smaller towns with architecture where you have a shop and
Right.
a residence, and it can be in a duplex format, it can be in a single, but I mean, there's lots of it, and you go different places, everybody that kind of likes that look. It's low, if you will, a little bit more density, but it's still relatively low density. It's not like great huge buildings, but putting it, I guess, would we want it, I don't want to toy with that right now, but I guess we have to think about and that was pre-COVID. So enormous amounts of folks now work remote. And so do we have to take a look at some flexibility there? Like,
Right, right.
again, if somebody works, you know, has their own profession there, and we crafted the code before kind of a little more at that point, that you'd have a sitting, you know, a little more substantial, but you know, now people have their shingles up all over the place, so.
A lot of
Does that
people
count?
Share, or, you know.
Right,
little
so
more
I don't
spaces
know,
and-
I don't know if we've kind of been overcome by events now, the way we were looking at that, I know I'm supposed to have some answers on this one, but every time I kept digging, I kept coming up with more questions.
Well, this is hard and fast, right? Every residence in the CM needs to have a commercial on the first floor, no exceptions. That's what that's saying, right?
Well, but it's not written anywhere.
But that's what
That's what the intent was.
That was the
They want-
intent, so that
yeah.
you could help, entice isn't the right word, but try to advocate or try to bracket
right.
certain areas to bring in some commercial.
So Mickey, your opinion on that, or your idea of the council was that if it was currently residential, it could remain residential. If once it had been designated commercial, it must always be commercial or
Yeah.
mixed use.
Yeah, and that came up in the meeting was like, if It was, if it's a single family home, it can stay a single family home, but once it goes commercial, then it's commercial.
Could it be mixed use?
Or if it wasn't mixed use, it would then have to stay mixed use.
Yeah.
So
Um,
when you say that, so, okay, I'll walk that through. So, okay, I demo the thing and now it's a lot and I sell the lot. The next structure has to be
So.
mixed
so-
use,
So
right?
if I'll use a house. I'll use the house behind the senior housing. So it's a single story house. I buy that lot and I bulldoze the house. And I had the intent to rebuild and I lost all my money.
Right,
So I had to
right.
sell the lot.
Right.
Okay, in my mind, on council, I would say, okay, you can come back and build a single family home there because the previous house was a single family home. Or you could go to, because at this point you're a blank slate. But once you make a choice, that's where it is right now. And that was because like, if you look, and I have the same issue in W1, where if any house up there has some problem with it, it then has to become mixed use or a townhouse in W1. So
Right, I
all the
mean,
nice-
if your renovation becomes, I'm trying to jack it up by 2 or 3 feet to be whatever, so it has a better crawl space for air.
Yeah,
And and we've had that, right? It breaks.
Yeah.
Now what? Right?
Yeah,
Or am I driven to this other code?
and that's where I was looking at with the problem of being driven over to, like, guess what? Now because some errors and fluke, I have to be commercial mixed use.
But you're not,
and
you're
then we're
not saying that's grandfathering though. See, that's the thing. If you're gonna grandfather, then it has to be direct use to direct use,
Yeah,
right?
it came up with Diane Burr's house where it went through so many owners and banks that it lost. Okay. and-
Whatever it was is different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that one, it was somebody wanted to buy that single family home and that was a single family home and put a single family home back. So we turned away a residence to now gain a commercial space and 3 condo units that put a burden on the street.
Karen?
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that, but we gotta clarify it.
And some of this goes back to
Yes.
when we drew maps for CM.
Let me ask this question.
We didn't want to-
When does a non-conforming use
Yeah.
have to switch? Is there a legal standard of time or?
So the whole concept behind non-conforming uses is that you are trying not to make something illegal when you change the code, right? So you're saying, okay, you can continue, but you will no longer conform to the requirements of the code. And then it's supposed to phase out over time. So I would say no, there's not a magical number. It's how you allow people to rehabilitate, repair, or replace those non-conforming uses that kind of gets you as to how long those non-conforming uses or structures continue. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I think what the board needs to do then is, the direction you take is single family attached, single family detached, there's conditions. Maybe those conditions are based like what Mickey said the council had previously talked about, and determine when that non-conforming use would then cease to exist. When that non-conforming use would no longer be allowable.
So that would be part of the conditions.
That's what I'm hearing. That would be part of the condition.
Like, you're not saying that people who have single family homes couldn't rebuild their house if there was a fire.
If it's the same owner, I would think, but, they should be able to, I would assume, but, well, then someone who has commercial and they have a fire, can't they then turn around and say, well, commercial and then,
They could
I'll
then
live
go
above
back to being mixed use. They couldn't take a commercial building and then build a single family home. Because a single family home is what would be non-conforming.
that's not, no, that's,
So might I interject if you don't mind?
Please,
If you can give broad direction is what you want to accomplish, I think, Rick, you and I could work to come up with some language that we might be able to bring back. So if you were to table this discussion till the next time, we could come back with language that you would all agree upon rather than trying to, figure out how it's gonna fit together. Does that make sense?
Yep,
Yes.
And I don't know if that's where you are right now in your conversation, but I just wanted to throw that out.
Well, I'm definitely there because I not speak for everybody, but on this one, I think there's conditions that have to get spelled out. Because we've walked through a series of scenarios here that's calling out that we put some conditions in there. And I think we probably got 3 or 4 that we were kicking around.
If you said a couple times, you want clarification on those definitions. So when we put those together at staff level and bring it back, I want to make sure there's a clarification in each one. That's what you're looking for.
Right.
Are you gonna include the townhouse piece in there too?
well, I think when we write the language, when I sit down with Karen, we'll write the language so that it will fit for any of the single-family uses that are there now.
And I'm just gonna throw this out there. I don't know if it's even possible, because I would love to see an area in town that was strictly commercial, which 7th Street is going in that direction. There's not a rezoning,
Then we have a
Application.
commercial district, all commercial districts have mixed uses to them. I mean, you won't find anywhere that says
strictly commercial?
just a business, yeah.
Okay, then,
Before the CM, we had that. And we got some pushback trying to tweak that density, which is why we made it CM. Was to try and get that mixed use in there
okay.
and then sort of combine the zones.
I mean, the market is what drives commercial business. If there is no demand, then first floor retail will be unoccupied. What typically happens is commercial developers come in and they buy up residentials. And they turn them into, because the market dictates, the market says that it's a good investment, that's a good thing to do. To make this 100%, every single family home must have retail, must be mixed use in the CM. Seems like we're forcing the market and we don't drive the market.
Well,
So I like what the commission had done previously. It said, okay, if it is previously residential and you want to rebuild residential, you may. That gives options. And if some developer comes in and says, I think this would be a good spot for commercial or mixed use, then they'll do that. They take a residential and turn it into mixed use.
We also have a lot of commercial property that's sitting there empty. Chesapeake and Third, both sides. The lot.
just
on
speaking third,
Fifth.
Third Street from Chesapeake to Dayton is all commercial and it's completely empty.
It's completely empty. It's been empty for years.
okay,
So. As somebody who was on the commission ages ago. Looking at this when it first came out. I questioned the sawtooth of the CM zone. It's zigzag. There are some properties that are included and some properties that aren't. And I tend to think that it's never a good idea to do a sawtooth district.
I think some of that was to include like the apartments, to include. Yeah, cause they're all, the houses that are there are houses, they're not really,
Well, there's a lot of houses that are currently present in this zone,
right,
so.
yeah, I'm not sure why it goes back that far, I mean, I can see, well, this. Like Karen said, we're gonna table this right now, otherwise we're gonna be here all night,
At least this piece of the discussion,
Yeah.
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there because it's something that I
yeah,
would like to look at some point.
Yeah, yeah, well, I get you, it should be the properties just facing Chesapeake and facing Seventh. Yeah, I don't know why all these others are. But, okay, so we're moving on.
The next highlighted item was churches, other buildings for religious. Somehow the P for R1 and R2 was deleted. We discussed that previously. This was, don't know why, but it was. Everyone voted that they thought that was a mistake, simply because during the time we were making this change, we were working almost every month on the food pantry to be rebuilt. So everyone is in agreement that that P should go back in the R1 and R2.
What's a church?
See if we have a definition for church.
Anybody can be a church.
And then I'll have to pay taxes or anything.
That should be. This desirable church.
Building or structure or group of buildings or structure which by design or construction are primarily intended for the conducting of organized religious services and accessory associated uses. So I would say that
It's wider,
definition
wider.
does not allow a house to be,
Does not allow a house
does not,
in the
allow-
R1, R2.
would not allow anyone to have, say that their house is a church.
Can you read that again?
Building or structure or group of buildings or structures which by design or construction are primarily intended for conducting organized religious services.
They could turn a house into a church, but they couldn't live there.
That would be a good clarification. Non-residential.
Mm-hmm. But Ladies of Charity is not a church. It's a
No,
food pantry.
It's religious associated though, because they're in conjunction with the Catholic Church. So it's what was the last part of that definition that you read? Because it was included in there.
Accessory associated uses.
That would include it, the food pantry.
Okay.
The Ladies of Charity are, it's a women's association.
Oh yeah, they're great. Yeah, we give a lot of money to them from the Health Association.
And what was discussed previously is that actually we're not gonna make it a P. We're gonna put it back as conditional, which is what it was previously.
Mhm.
And there were conditions for
Yes.
setbacks and other things.
Yeah.
It was SC before, wasn't it? Special exception?
Yeah, it was SC.
We'll go back to special exception. How about in the W1? You're just talking about the R1 and R2?
Yeah.
And the W1, nothing.
Yeah.
I have a question here. I mean, reading the definitions of the special conditions, special exceptions. How can you have a special condition without a special exception? Might be a trick question, but
Yeah, I understand.
you know
We
how,
have what?
how can you have a special condition without a special exception? Based on what I read,
Special exception with.
You have special exceptions and then you have special exceptions with conditions.
If it has with conditions, for example, vacation rentals. Then as long as they meet those conditions, it's kind of like an automatic approval.
you mean automatic, I mean, it says,
As long as it meets the conditions set forth, then the board would approve it as a special exception with conditions.
but when you go to the back where it talks about special conditions. I should have written all the numbers down. It's special conditions. These, the 300,
Special exceptions fall under 400.
when applying, okay, so.
That may be put in so that there will be, like a public hearing type thing,
Special exceptions all have to go to Board of Appeals for public hearing.
right? But the SC piece, because there really isn't a section that says special exceptions conditions. It just says special
So
exception.
you guys set the conditions, the special exception, they have their own, the Board of Appeals has their own list of questions that they ask for all special exceptions. The
Right.
conditions for use would be set by the planning commission.
So why is our table saying SC and S? What's the difference? And is that what you're asking? What's the difference between S and SC?
Basically, when I was going over this, it just didn't make sense. How can you have one without the other? How can you have an exception without fulfilling the conditions?
Was that so that it would trigger going to the Board of Appeals for approval?
Anything that's a special exception has to go to the Board of Appeals.
The only thing that I
Right.
think is just S is utility building facility, and then that is R1 and R2. And that might be for when I was looking at the appeals on planning commission. Those were just so open-ended, it was hard to put conditions to them to codify. And it was
Utility buildings are only a special exception.
Yeah. Which
There's
they can
only
go
a
to the Board of
few,
Appeals and
and
just,
maybe the only two you have.
well, everything else that, because then like just conditionals, the planning commission can approve, like it's just
Correct.
conditionals, you guys can approve them. So the SCs were a way to trigger notification of your neighbors and your meeting conditions. And then the Board of Appeals at that time can add more conditions if something comes up in that meeting. Like if there's, hey, this whole property has always been noise, or hey, you have 10 rooms and you only have 2 off-street parking spaces. It's like those types of things where the Board of Appeals can use their teeth. I think that was some of the, why we went back and we did some of the SCs and some of the things.
Well, C, S, and SC in definitions all refer back to 3-300. So you can't have an exception without special,
No,
can't
special
have-
exceptions and special exceptions
With-
with conditions also lists 3-404, which
Okay.
deals with special exceptions that are approved by the Board of Appeals.
May I interrupt again?
Yes, ma'am.
I am sorry, but I would like to just kind of briefly go over with you a special exception. So let me even back up a little bit further. As you all are aware, it is the General Assembly of the state that gives every municipality the authority to do this planning and zoning. And it defines a special exception as a grant of a specific use that would not be appropriate generally or without restriction, and shall be based on the finding that the requirements of the zoning law governing the special exception on the property are satisfied, and the use on the subject property is consistent with the plan and compatible with the existing neighborhood. And so when you talk about conditions in connection with special exceptions, you're talking about placing conditions on an approval of a special exception that the Board of Appeals would feel is necessary to ensure that that use is operated in accordance with the requirements for that particular special exception use. So when you're talking about the conditions of a special exception use, that's what you're discussing. Okay,
And it essentially bypasses the planning commission. It's essentially just the Board of Appeals that has purview over it. There's nothing
Board
in
of-
here under the S or SC that refers to the planning commission for any review or conditions.
That's in another section.
It's up where,
It is in 8-101 and 8-206. 8-101, I think, sets out our purpose, and 8-206,
not under the
you're not gonna see it in section 3.
17.3200.
Not in section 3. It's another part of the zoning. Hang on a second while I find
So
it.
S and SC, it refers to
Section
authorization
8.
by the Board of
In
Appeals.
Article 8.
correct. Because the state law is what authorizes a Board of Appeals under 4305 of the land use article to hear and decide special exceptions to the terms of a local law on which the board is required to pass under a local law. So when you look at the Board of Appeals authority under state law, they are responsible for that and variances and certain appeals. When you go to state law and you look at the duties of the planning commission, that does not include the grant of these certain things.
8-206 is the section that deals with referral to the planning commission. A, the board shall request an advisory opinion from the planning commission on any application for an appeal, special exception, or variance. So
Mhm.
that's where that comes in, and then 8-101, under the planning commission, item J, review and prepare advisory opinions on applications for appeal, special exceptions, or
Mhm.
variances is part of our duties.
Right, it's
covered by
advisory though,
special
right?
exception.
Yes.
Yeah,
And that was the only thing I was trying to say, is that the actual authority to grant the special exceptions and to impose the conditions is housed in the Board of Appeals.
yeah, we can just give our opinion, well, you're supposed to ask for our opinion.
Well, that's why I present those cases here
Exactly.
and ask for the recommendations from the planning commission
Exactly,
before we schedule the Board of Appeals for those cases.
right.
Okay, so that language in adding the Board of Appeals doesn't change anything. We change from planning commission to Board of Appeals.
Right, we're gonna
Doesn't
change
change
that to authorized by BOA with planning commission recommendations based on those sections of the ordinance. So the question is, on the church and other buildings, are we going to put it back to what it was previously? Which was SC. And the conditions were: no part of any building shall be located within 50 feet of any property line in separate ownership. And screening per section 5504 of this ordinance shall be provided where the lot abuts residential use properties or where the site abuts the R1 zoning district.
Feet?
50 feet
On each side?
each side.
Wow. That's a lot of property there.
It was very restrictive.
You can include that in the W1 as well,
That's entirely up to you all. to make that recommendation.
and that's what it was before. R1, R2, and W1.
So Rick, how do you want us to do it? Just, we don't have to do a motion, we just simply,
No, we're just discussing each item
Right.
and
R1, R2 and W1?
back to see with the same conditions.
Mhm.
Well, W1, Yeah, that's all the way over there.
How is it in W1?
Previously, it was SC. Neil,
Yeah, I see that. I'm just wondering why. Why would that be in W1? Because we currently don't have anything like that in W1.
I think it was St. Anthony's parking lot.
correct.
Are they in W1?
Yeah, it's the very bottom end.
Ah, okay, all right.
You know, for the, that's probably why that. It's yellow. Okay, gotcha. Because the museum's there. Community center and stuff. Gotcha.
So everyone is in favor of SD in the R1, R2, and W1 for the church? All right.
Yes.
I don't know what I had for food pub, microbrew and tap room. What were my comments to that?
Wait a minute, before you go to that one, wait a minute. Utility, have we gotten to utility, voting facility?
No, it's farther down.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, for the taproom thing, you have add, quote, see limited alcohol production facilities, end quote, or change the name on the chart to reflect the heading under the conditions. Was the comment.
Yeah, okay, I remember. So the conditions listed as something other than what is listed in the use table.
Yeah, and it should be W, not U. Where's
New is you.
utility building facility? There are no special,
Right, because, and that's correct to be S and not an SC for utility building facility, right? Yeah, that's why you don't need it.
okay,
And so brew pub is a new U.
it is U,
Mhm.
okay. But the name should be the same if it's,
Brew pub, micro brew tap.
no, it should be W. Not U.
W, limited alcohol production.
Right.
Oh.
Right.
it's T.
And then,
What
and
is
there's
U?
V and W, U
Oh,
is,
you're right, you're right,
yeah,
you're
home,
right.
U is home
Yeah,
occupancy,
yeah,
so
okay.
it shouldn't be U.
Aaron, can I ask you another question?
Right.
So in the use table, we have listed brew pub, microbrew, tap room. But
Okay.
in the conditions, it is listed as limited alcohol production facilities, i.e. brew pub, microbrew, tap room. Does that make a difference?
Well, you have to be consistent with the terminology that we're using. So if you're gonna be changing it, I would make sure that you use the exact same terminology throughout.
So then my recommendation is the use table be changed to limited alcohol production facility.
Right.
But then are you also going to add the IE part?
Well, we can add the IE and then in the definitions, we can put limited alcohol production facility would include brew pubs, microbrews, tap rooms.
Mm.
And then clarify it within the definition. But the use table and the conditions would be
Same.
the same.
And that is, it's on there as W, okay.
Well, I put that on
And then,
But in the table of uses, it's brew pub, microbrew and tap room.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then, but in the conditions, they listed as limited production alcohol facility. And when they had previously did the definition, they did it for limited production alcohol facility. So my recommendation is just to make them all the same. And then in the definition, you can include that a limited production alcohol facility includes brew pubs, microbrews, tap rooms.
Okay, we'll talk.
Okay.
That would help to clarify it for people who are looking at it to see what they can and
Exactly.
cannot do.
Similarly, gas stations, service stations, should we add auto repair to the title in the table? As it is listed in our paragraph 1. Auto repair can be standalone without a gasoline. I don't, which is the service station auto the same as auto repair? I don't know. But it's listed as gasoline station, service station, auto repair in this.
General auto repair up there in the table.
also to be consistent, you also have a misspelled word in the, R1. You have applicant, it should be application.
Yeah.
You didn't catch that one.
That's it.
You did?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere.
Okay.
What was it under R?
Art, did you get that one?
No, I was, fortune telling was the next one I had highlighted. I didn't,
There we go.
Well, okay, we're doing the gas station one.
which is after fortune telling.
Okay. What did you, what were your, other than they've opened up again?
They're not open.
They had a big old open
That-
sign. They
that
were
open
taking,
sign, they're not open. They have no business license. They do not have a lease. They were told by the property owner to vacate the premises.
this weekend they were?
Yes.
Okay. Wow, they just showed up and did that?
No, but fortune telling, what do I have down for that?
This
Permissible,
use was voted on to be removed.
So I thought that you all had voted that you wanted to remove that as a use in the use table, but it is still listed as,
Conditional, permitted, yeah.
Should somebody come in, couldn't that be included under personal services other? Somebody decides they want to do that?
Me, it's entertainment.
It depends on your perspective.
Also money laundering, but,
Could be entertainment. That was just a question.
So, yeah, so I mean, it was added to the table. Why was it added to the table instead of,
it was added years ago.
it wasn't in the prior one, was it?
I guess
Yeah.
probably when they came for the license, they added it to include it in.
That was before the people
Before?
that were there.
Telling P&P.
If it's a legit business, I don't know how you can like just say we can't have fortune telling here. I don't know if that's legal. But I do see it as more of personal services or something like that, but
We already have personal services kind of being broken down, grooming, wellness, health, you know, add another
Other.
category.
in other,
Other.
Right.
So I think
In
if we
the
eliminated it here-
definition, it says, oh no, we took that out.
because that would be grooming.
I mean, somebody could argue that, say it's not personal services, I don't, it's undefined.
Yeah, but someone could argue that you can't say no to me. I want to open up a fortune telling.
You certainly have, the town certainly has a right to limit the types of businesses. There's plenty of places that have no adult dancing facilities or tattoo parlors or.
Need one.
But you know what, there's no mention about a tattoo parlor on this list. I mean, if you try to list every single business out there, I mean,
I think it was there and got eliminated.
that could be personal services other also.
In our town code, tattoo parlors are not permitted in town.
Hmm.
And that's in the code.
But, other than this table, I mean, where are you talking, Stacy? Where,
Town code,
the town code?
Town code,
overarching thing that controls everything.
Okay, gotcha.
they're not
think
permitted.
Doesn't that say no chickens too?
Yes, we have a no chicken ordinance, no livestock.
No livestock. Used to be in North Beach.
So we would delete fortune telling and just. If an applicant came by, it would fall under personal services other,
Right. Would be,
or wellness. Most people might say, but it's the same. All conditional.
I think personal services other would cover a lot of stuff.
like, yeah, the catch-all. And if the town wants to put it in there,
I'm just asking what the recommendation is. I didn't say you had to put it under another category. I believe the discussion you had before was that you didn't want it any longer.
Not everybody agreed with that one.
I know, I'm just saying, I
I
think the
don't think it
vote,
has to be in as a specific thing.
by itself, it doesn't have to be by itself,
I
yeah.
think it totally could be dealt with under personal services other.
Okay.
And, you know, I see no reason to have like that specific of a thing or something like that.
Right,
I think personal services other would certainly fit the bill if somebody should decide that they want to come in and be a tarot reader.
I'm okay with that.
But the town in their list could put no tattoos, no fortune tellers, no,
Yeah, they could put
No
it into
strip
the tax
clubs.
code,
No extra.
but that's not us, that's them.
give me my axe, give me my axes.
all right, so we're gonna remove the fortune telling. And just keep in mind that when we get down to this next item, personal services other, I'm pretty sure that my comment is you have listed conditions, but we have no conditions listed.
Right.
Not specific, I mean, you have. Personal services, Z, AA, and BB. Right? AA, BB. Get Z. Must have North Beach license, must have North Beach license. We do have conditions.
Except for other.
Well, we have it delineated in the table. In Z, it's just personal services. Period. AA is wellness, BB is health. So when we go back to the table. Personal services grooming does not have. Z just says personal services. And then AA is personal
Yeah.
services wellness, BB personal services
Yeah, a
health.
little confusing.
Right, so Z personal, I mean, personal services grooming. And personal services other do not have conditions. But if they all have the same classification, why do we need to delineate them all?
Personal services health conditions would probably have a higher,
License, that's what it says. Need to have
more
a
licenses required.
Okay.
Well, the general thing
Grooming requires a license.
under Z, number one, the general must meet all licensing requirements, local, state, and federal related to their respective occupation and maintain said licenses in good standing. Doesn't that pretty much cover everything?
C1. But do all personal services require licensing?
No, I think if you have the general one, like what you just read, if they have to have it, then,
Well,
but
So maybe add,
would you say applicable licensing?
yeah. All applicable licensing requirements,
Or certifications,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
license or certifications, because,
It would just be edit number 1. D1.
D would stay, and then we would get rid of AA, BB. And just leave it as that.
And what do we do with the table?
It just stays all Cs, conditional.
wait a minute, so we've done the gasoline station, service station, that one, right?
Is that right, Rick?
Yeah.
We agreed to add auto repair to gasoline station, service station,
The match, be consistent.
just after station filling.
Wait a minute, did we do temporary concession?
I think when you guys discussed it last time, the reason that you added service station was that it included servicing vehicles, which would fall under auto repair.
So then R
Okay,
should not say auto repair then.
right.
To be
But-
consistent.
What if
It
we
said, it should
have-
not say general auto repair.
But then is that implying that you cannot do general auto repair if you don't have a gasoline station? Because that's an issue.
No, I think that a service station is definitely different than a gas station.
Yeah, and this
Or
could be,
could be combined,
it could
but
also be boat repair, bicycle repair, I mean, lawnmower repair.
When you talk to Joe Public, you say service station. they're
under the old
thinking
definition,
Sunoco.
yeah, it's a gas, it's a combination because that's the way it used to be, yeah. I mean, I personally would rather it say delete service station and add and keep auto repair. Cause I'm not sure what a service station is anymore. Cause that's kind of an old term, like you said, old Sunoco.
But then I think one of the things. Okay, no, it's both service and repair.
Well, you know what,
Okay,
a
never mind.
Jiffy Lube isn't an auto repair, it's a auto service. Would it be so bad just to add auto repair up in the table?
That's the easiest
Are we
thing to
going
do.
backwards? Is that
It's
what we're
already
doing?
down there.
You want me to add auto service station?
Auto repair.
Auto
Just add auto repair in the table along with gas. It's already got gasoline station and service station. Just add auto repair to that.
And R1, the definition, whatever, you gotta change the word from applicant to application.
What are you talking about?
Or gasoline stations, service stations, and now auto repair. If you go down to 1, no fuel pump, oil drain pit, or other vehicle. Other vehicle applicant for servicing, but, or applicant,
Instead of applicant, it should read application,
Yeah.
other vehicle application for servicing.
Yeah.
Going back to the table in line with the auto. There's nothing in here about auto sales.
Took it out.
We
There
took it
was in the
out.
previous one, so
They voted to review, this board voted to remove it.
Yeah, we took it out.
as we allow it or don't allow it or non-conditional or it can
Didn't
be.
want it. Decided that they didn't want to see like
We
a
really don't have any
car lot on Third Street
space
or a
for a car lot.
car lot on,
I see some small car lots. Just throw them up anywhere on a street corner.
I know, I think, but the board decided that they didn't want to see somebody over a car lot.
Didn't want to
But-
see it.
It could be under retail
Yeah,
sales.
Not really, it's not retail.
No, it's different law.
Oh. Did we do utility building and facility?
Yeah.
We did, okay, oh, we're good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So motor vehicle sales are not allowed
Not
anywhere,
allowed.
and that's in the code
That's not allowed according to the use table,
because it's not listed.
because it's not listed. I mean, if someone wanted to come and propose a car lot, there is an avenue that they can apply to do that, but it was removed from the use table.
Can you go up to brew pub, micro brew tap? I wanna see, okay. W, it should be, it shouldn't be W, it should be, oh no, it should be W.
Mhm.
It was,
I had you
oh, okay,
incorrectly.
okay, that's good, okay.
So retail sales, what was the list for that?
You, wanted to suggest making retail sales two distinct categories, one for non-food related items and one that includes food related items. Which would
Conditions,
help us out.
food and non-food,
Non-food.
It'll be like restaurants
how's food retail?
as opposed to clothing, a clothing store.
Retail sales.
Grocery
yeah.
stores. It would help to clarify.
No, but you
things.
have like restaurants separate, you have,
Restaurants are separate,
Restaurants
but
and-
we're not talking restaurants.
what would you be talking?
Somebody
Retail
decides
sales
to
would
build
be a grocery
Rollins on
store.
Third Street.
So-
Okay, okay, Elsie's.
Not necessarily. If anybody comes in and wants to have a totally food oriented. We kind of had some questions when we were dealing with that
Yeah,
one,
we used to
about
have
how things work.
a dog
IPA.
food place that sold baked dog goods was retail sales.
Right.
It was just a suggestion. We can leave it as one.
It's a good idea.
Then that would be under, you'd have to have some conditions. Cause they'd have to meet health code.
Not for
Well,
retail.
Not for selling clothes or,
No, but
Well,
if
that's
it,
non-food
if it's
related.
retail
right,
food.
but the one
with
that would
the
be
health
food
department
related retail sales. You'd have to have some conditions.
If you were to add that. Or make that.
You don't have any
distinction.
conditions for restaurants.
No, we don't.
Oh, that's bad.
No, because they answer to a higher, they have to be health
I
department.
mean,
or
the restaurant can't open without health department approval, business inspections.
Then why do we, and then if they're selling dog biscuits, they'd have to. It's
Not for
health
dogs.
code,
Is that county? Would that be county? Health department coming in on that?
State.
Well, it's state, but they have
State.
county
Well,
offices.
yeah, okay, so like, we don't have a health department here, so I don't know why. We Need to specify that? Because that's kind of accepted. That if it's food related, the health department has got to be involved at some point. Do we need to say it?
Yes, and we don't for restaurants. I just broached the question because it was brought up whether, you wanted to discuss separating retail sales into non-food and food-related sales.
Personally, I think it's a good idea because they are different. You don't need health department approval to sell clothes. But you do need it if you're selling food.
only if you make it, if you bring it in as a package, you don't have to have health department.
You do.
Hmm?
You do.
Refrigerator.
Well, if you don't,
Even if you do not have to have refrigerated foods, If you're selling food at all, there is a health department license
If it's
required.
already packaged
Yeah.
food, I deal with it already, you know, I've dealt with it.
You have to have a health department license.
Okay, I didn't. And, you know, I just, okay.
Why under some of the conditions
well,
do we have, must have a North Beach business license and some we don't?
They should all require that.
Like under personal services, we have, must have North Beach business license. But not
That
all of
again-
them.
That any business needs a North Beach business license. Again, that's in our town code under business licenses.
So going back to personal services.
Then you don't need to put that in there.
Yeah, you can delete that.
Or in a lot of places, you can delete it.
We'll take those out.
Is somebody coming in and reading all this going to know that, though, that they had to have a business license?
If it's in a,
I mean,
Code.
they're gonna go through our office, so we wouldn't present a business to the planning commission that we didn't make apply for the license. So we can probably remove it.
I'm just thinking, you know, some people who do advance work are gonna read through all this stuff and come in not knowing that they have to do that because it's not specifically listed. Maybe if
We
we
can
have
either
it
remove
general.
it from all, or I can have it put in as a condition. Otherwise, you'd have to have a condition for every business.
Well, you could,
Put in a general statement.
right,
That
caveat, a caveat.
any
in it.
business in town must procure a town business license.
I mean, we can add it to that if you want. Like I said, like they said, it is in the town code. And a business can't come before you unless it goes to my office,
yeah,
so.
it's in the town code.
I know you catch it, and I know it's in the town code, but what I'm trying to avoid is having somebody come in who has no knowledge of anything.
Code, it's enforceable.
If they're looking at the zoning ordinance, you can put a reference in there to see section, and I don't know the business license code off the top of my head, section 4-324 of the North Beach town code. Put a link in there to the town code, a link to that page.
So I'll write something that'll go above the use table, and then we'll just, anywhere in the conditions where we have must maintain a North Beach business license, we'll just remove those excerpts and we'll put the blurb above the use table to reference the code. Does that satisfy? Okay.
I just think it's important for people to get as much information as they can. Assuming that they're doing any research at all.
Temporary concession, I think actually that is. What did I have listed for there?
The conditional use is not listed in the ordinance.
Okay, it is. I just missed it. It's there.
Okay.
That's what I should have removed.
Can we look at our definition for that in the definition section and clarify that along with adding the food truck thing, because that's where things got hairy.
What pay, I'm getting closer, PW.
So the definition we have is a mobile retail vendor. I think maybe that's where we talked about separating retail sales from general to food and non-food.
It came up, in how we were interpreting axe throwing. Because there
Axe
was a
throwing?
difference. There was a difference between, because that says mobile retail vendor.
What page are you on?
Well, this is
Oh,
the definitions on page 8. This is what I have, which I don't think is updated. But then we also have the food truck,
X and
which
K.
isn't in the definition that
Okay.
I have. So I don't know if food truck has been added to the definitions or not.
It has, it's a X for food trucks and K for temporary concessions.
Yeah, under this, but in our definition.
So chapter 9 has to be updated and changed as well. It was gonna be done at the same time we did chapter 3. We just never finished it.
Yeah,
What do
so
you-
like if we're talking about food trucks and we're talking about temporary concessions, we need to have a definition. in the
Yeah, I mean, can
definitions.
anybody indicate what they think that differential will be? Because to me, you don't have a temporary concession without a truck or trailer.
There's a lot of temporary concessions. People set up tables and tents at
mhm.
Friday night. First
That's
Friday.
what's considered a temporary
Temporary.
concession.
So what is a temporary concession?
Mobile retail sales. Is what your definition is.
Temporary
I see
concession.
that, but when you say mobile, I think maybe that's not exactly the best word. Portable might be better. Because when you say mobile, I think
People think
wheels,
automobile or
Wheels.
vehicle.
wheels. But if it's portable, to me, that's a table with your tent. Mobile is wheels. Automobile, wheels.
Do we just add the word portable, mobile, portable retail sales?
No, I think mobile is the one that causes the issue.
So the lady that comes with her school bus and sells shirts and boutique clothing, what would she be?
It would be,
The issue is differentiating between a temporary concession and a food truck.
You cannot compare what happens at an event to the zoning ordinance. Because at an event, whether she sells clothes out of a truck or I have a food vendor that has a table and an umbrella, it's an event. It's a 4-hour time window and they just have health department regulations to adhere to. So you can't, that's not comparing apples to apples, an event versus someone that wants to come in on 3rd Street with a temporary food truck and sell on a Saturday.
Let's get a clarification of the definition from Karen.
Yeah.
Because I think they're different.
Karen?
Well, I'll deal with
Okay, I'm
all
sorry.
the rest of, yeah.
I didn't know if she heard.
Yeah.
after temporary concessions. In the conditions, we have paragraph L for massage therapy. But it's not listed here in the table. Sure, whether we wanted to
It should be removed.
delete paragraph L.
Yeah, massage therapy should be removed because it fell under.
Signal services, health.
Services.
We're going to delete paragraph conditions.
But you do recommend placing number 3 in the definitions in chapter 9. Number 3 was the big long paragraph about what it doesn't include.
Yeah.
Well, you know, to be a licensed massage therapist. And it require them to be licensed. It's about a year-long school. I mean, it's legit. It's the real deal. It's,
And well worth the money.
yes, a legit massage really
So we're
is.
gonna remove.
Yeah.
We're gonna go with what the recommendation was on that.
Delete it from paragraph L condition.
Yeah.
Right.
There was one thing I had, a question about, hard to read with this orange. Number one, we had all massage therapy shall be operated in accordance with, no, not that one. Number two, incidental to a principal medical and or spa use.
We talked about that, and that's one of the means I do recall, because like the new one, it's
Right.
just a massage there,
Right.
not in condition with
Right.
anything else, and
So
we said that was okay.
Don't want that in.
Right. So we would just fall under this personal services with applicable certifications and
In number three,
licensing.
included in the definitions.
Now you're gonna hate me. I've got, I know.
We still going through the table, is that right?
Yeah. This one goes back to the gas station one
Oh,
in the definition.
which paragraph?
R. Just a quick question. Under gas stations. No more than 3 inoperable vehicles shall be stored outside at any given time. There's quite a few more than 3 that are vehicles that are just outside of, Titans.
They're not inoperable. Most of them are getting service. That's not inoperable. That's not,
Okay, then that,
yeah, that's
okay.
not broke down on with the tires off or up on jacks.
okay,
They're there waiting to go in for oil changes,
For
that sort of
service.
thing, yeah.
okay.
Bringing something up that's not in what you did. In section E, vacation rentals.
Have we gotten to that
It's
one?
on
yet?
page 7 and 8. Number 5. We have owner must maintain a minimum of 2 town parking permits for each living.
All right.
unit.
We eliminated that because we don't have town parking permits anymore. So that has to be eliminated.
I think it has to be changed. I would not eliminate a parking requirement.
Or could the town do special parking permits
We're
for,
not going to issue
That's
parking permits.
okay.
I think when it originally came out, that they were looking at requirements of 2 off-street parking spots.
Several meetings ago, you all discussed this same sentence, and at that time, Rick brought it to your attention that the town was revisiting the parking situation in town, and at that time, it was decided to keep it in. Even though it's not a requirement at this time, no one's to say that it may not be a requirement next year or 6 months from now.
So what do we do in the meantime about that condition? Just ignore it?
Well, we can't legally enforce a condition on an applicant that we don't currently do,
Right.
Yes.
right? I
You
mean,
can just waive the requirement if you want to leave it in there for future. Again. Or.
So any
Really?
vacation rental that has been approved, and that, you know, they have not been required to have 2 parking permits. They are
So-
approved based off not having to have them because we don't have the plan in place at this time.
Personally, I would put a moratorium on them until we get a plan, but that's not my thing. That's above my pay grade. But I do like your suggestion, Steve, about actually saying we're waiving this right now because we don't have it. Could they possibly?
Well, here's the other thing you have to look at. It's if they met all of the other requirements, the town, if we issued permits or if we had a permit issuance program, there would be nothing for, there wouldn't be anything that would negate them getting those permits. Like, I think when they had town parking permits, unless you didn't pay your taxes or something, I don't even think they revoked parking permits at that point, so.
We
the-
did
the
not.
parking permits- I'm sorry?
We did not. We have never revoked parking permits.
Yeah, so if they meet all of the other requirements, if the town ever does go to a parking permit program again, they would be eligible for those two permits. Yeah,
Okay. Where I see an issue, though, is that we seem to be approving them in batches. 3, 4, 5 at a time, and we're not putting parking requirements on any of them. Because we can't. So it's going to be an issue, which is why I think doing that parking part thing is important.
I think I think restricting them. So most of the ones that have come before you have two off-street parking places because most of them are new. I don't know if we can legally say you have to have two off-street parking places, which then restricts older homes from having the ability to apply for vacation rentals.
No, we could ask for one though, because even on a 25-foot lot, you can put something in front. There's to the right of my house, there are two 25-foot lots. And the second one has a parking spot in the front yard. So it is possible to require at least one.
That's up to y'all to recommend.
I just think as we get more and more of them, that it's really going to increase the burden on the neighborhoods.
Well, you can't put that in there and then not have parking permits. Because then someone can say, well, you don't have parking permits, so that invalidates that, which invalidates everything.
But we could require one.
It doesn't invalidate anything as long as we don't.
But you
as
don't
long- as long-
issue them, that's the thing.
Yeah, but that doesn't even matter. As long as the Board of Appeals doesn't deny an applicant because they don't have parking permits that we don't issue,
Okay.
it can stay in there. It doesn't negate any of the other rules.
Oh, okay, so then. If you think,
Well, what's that do with our site plans? I said, is this,
It's a permit. Right?
it's a temporary permit too.
well, okay, so if you come in with a commercial, that's a category 2, and you gotta tell us on your site plan where you're gonna park.
Doesn't say on site.
This is just for vacation
Just
rentals.
for
Okay.
vacation
That's a-
rentals.
I know, but we generally don't have parking, so that's gonna be that vacation rental. So the assumption is that's residential. Okay. But currently, we're not enforcing any parking,
We don't issue parking permits. at
Okay.
this time.
so.
Now, I will say we have one next door to us and there was one 4th of July when there were 13 extra cars on my street.
All for one house?
Yes,
But even if we did issue parking permits. And they maintain those too. Doesn't
It's
prevent them from having visitors.
I know
and
that.
it's-
saying is not requiring anything at all for parking is placing an undue burden on the other residents in that neighborhood. Because you're bringing in, something that's being done for money, essentially as a business. And the burden for finding a parking spot, if there are a lot of people there, falls on the residents in that neighborhood.
That's kind of true of commercial businesses too, that they're not
It
required to
is.
have parking.
So
But we
are,
have parking lots in commercial
are
areas.
are we talking about,
Not
long-term
a
and
buyout.
short-term rentals, or what are we?
Short-term vacation rental.
Short-term, this is just vacation rentals, it's E, and there was another thing under there.
So, okay, so would that be under? Well. So that's not that's not our planning commission piece, right?
Only as far as we make recommendations, it's a special exception with conditions.
No, but I mean,
We said.
to get a license to rent a space. Does that go through the town, or, what happens for me to say, okay, I'm gonna rent my house?
You Come in and apply for a vacation rental license.
Okay, so it resides over in that condition.
The other thing there is number 2, we have maximum number of occupants shall be 3 per bedroom. If you have a 3-bedroom house, you could have 9 occupants there. And it is conceivable that you could have 9 cars.
Yeah, but I think that's gotta go. Oh, so I tend to look at okay, so you wanna renovate your house, you wanna drop house, put a new one in, you wanna renovate a commercial space, you wanna build a new commercial space, it's all lined out. If you wanna take an existing and then create a commercial piece, i.e. I wanna turn it into a rental.
That's not considered
It's
commercial.
not considered
Okay.
commercial. And that's another piece. Maybe it should.
Well,
be.
there's a license, I mean, you have to go get something from the town, correct?
You have to either get, if you rent your house long-term, you get a long-term rental license.
Okay.
If you're.
So, I mean, we can call that not commercial, but that's some kind of regulatory action, some kind of certificate, something that's not. You're doing something not on an original build, right? Because if you were doing original build, you're falling one of these other categories.
No, not necessarily, because the house next to me was just a house. And then somebody bought it and turned it into a vacation rental
This is,
without doing anything to it. It's a house in the middle of a neighborhood.
Yeah,
And-
and what
and
I'm
I'm
trying to do is I'm trying to shoehorn it back into. Like. What do I look at when I approve something?
That's conditions right here. It's just that,
No, but you're going to, the thing is, you're going to get a certificate to operate the property in a different manner. That's what we're talking about, right?
Can
It
we,
may be easier to think of this way. Are the conditions that are set there now still valid conditions for the use of vacation rentals? Or do they need to be updated based on times or something removed or added or changed? Based on how vacation rentals are working? And that could be something that we may need to say, hey, on our end, we want you to look harder at them maybe. Unless if you guys have ideas on them from your end. And I can say that, we see how many we have, we see where they are. and we may or may not get complaints or, the other word for complaints. Kudos for the vacation rental.
Maybe I'm always stuck in operations or not operations, so the way I'm looking at this is,
Mhm.
this is an operational issue. Not a static code issue. If you want parking spaces, then you have to put it in directly. If I'm gonna build this, I need this many spaces, build that many. What you're talking about, though, is you're coming in to get a certificate, do something different, something operationally.
License.
Okay, so that's not here. This isn't the document for that.
It would be the condition. So for example, if I come in and you make a condition that you must have, like, we'll use parking because it's an easier one to make. Like, if you say the condition, you must provide at least one off-street parking. As a condition, to have a vacation rental. So if I buy a house that has no off-street parking and I want to make it, and the condition is to be vacation rental, I have to put in off-street parking.
But that would be addressed in the licensing, not here.
That's my point.
Yeah,
It's
so-
an operational thing, not a static build,
When
because
they go for approval, though, they have to be able to show that they have it.
But they may not do that at the time they go for approval of the build, right?
correct. That's what I'm driving to.
Right.
So
And
At
we've asked
some
that
point when
question
we have a-
before, do you
yeah.
intend to operate this as a B and B or,
Right,
you know?
right.
And people say no. And then they
Mhm.
come to you later and request a license to operate
But
a
then if,
vacation rental with no restrictions. or
right,
no-
if we get to a town parking plan or an allocation plan or an enforcement plan, then when you get that operational certificate, is the way I see it, that's when that gets addressed. If you're coming in and building structures, we're gonna tell you, if you're gonna go commercial, we tell you exactly, you've gotta show spaces, right?
But my point is they're not coming in and specifically building it. They're taking existing.
But see,
real
that's
estate and
not,
changing
you can't make this, this document control it. That's an operational thing.
If it's residential, it's required to provide on-site parking. If it's commercial, then there's no parking requirements, right?
Well, the site plan tells you gotta show it.
Mhm.
Right, you have to accommodate it because there's traffic flow and safety and all that rot, right? So you have all those other things that tick into those site plans, right?
But use is not one of those things that we factor.
And that's my point. And the use gets into when you go to the town and say, I want to operate it as this.
Well, we do change of use, for businesses, you have to come and get recertified or
Right,
whatever
right.
they call it. So if you have a residential home and you wanna recertify it as a short-term rental, then that's a change of use.
But if you change the use and consider it to be commercial, you can't put it in R1.
A
Not
vacation
commercial.
rental is
There's
not.
nowhere in the country that's considered commercial. There's nowhere where they consider someone having a vacation rental of a single family home a change in use.
Okay.
Right, on code definition, again, I was working on
I'm just looking at
operational
your-
plans today, so.
Definitions and just for a point of information, the town of New Orleans has put through legislation that cleared their state Supreme Court as being okay. They limited the number of vacation rentals that they have in their town and decided to issue licenses via lottery basis, which I found very fascinating.
I went to a vacation rental seminar in New Orleans,
Did they bring that up?
and I'll be honest, the issues and the reasons that they went to what they went to, we don't have a single one of the issues that they had.
I don't know, I just found it fascinating that they would do
Back
that.
when I talked about the way we did things, they were like, we're not sure why you're even attending this, like,
Mhm.
you guys way ahead. Most places had no conditions, no restrictions, no,
Hey, well, look at Chesapeake Beach.
they didn't have
They
any.
didn't have any.
So I'm not saying the parking doesn't have to get addressed, I just can't make this piece bend around it.
Well, it's
Well-
there already.
Can we table the discussion? Because it's getting late.
Yeah.
And we still have two more table items here that.
Yeah, I'm okay with table.
So I'm just Should somebody want to take on a task of proposing some revised language? Reviewing it?
So I'll
submitting it?
take all the notes that we have for what we have above, meet with the attorney, go over the recommended language for the pieces that we could not come to consensus on, and come back next month with it.
Are you sending it back to us? We're supposed to put notes on it or something? Or is that something else we're putting notes on? Now I'm getting
This?
confused.
Those were recommendations on the comprehensive plan.
Okay,
Right.
Yeah,
that's,
Is this gonna, are you gonna, okay, when you send that, are you gonna post it up so we can take a look at the last items?
Yep.
Okay. Cause I think we're almost through the table, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
garage
that's
sales, home
two more
occupation.
items.
That's a
Okay.
couple.
Yeah. Garage sale, yard sales, and estate sales.
Was there anything?
Under paragraph S, there are no conditions established.
Right.
What is that?
Yeah, it says,
Paragraph S.
yeah,
garage
it
sales.
stops, you know, to the requirements of the district where located, except as here in provided, and there's nothing provided.
Guys, yeah.
I don't know if we can look back at the old one and
Yeah.
maybe just
I'll
have,
look.
okay.
I got it.
And then the next one, lastly,
Well, on temporary structure, I just want to ask a question on this. On T. Cause that's, no, okay, never mind, you doing home occupation?
no,
Okay. Then temporary structure, a real quick one, T1. It's, the structure is removed within 30 days after construction is completed. Just the for definition, completed like the last nail has been
Use of-
hammered
use
or
of
the use of
occupancy.
occupancy's been approved.
I would say that it has to do with use and occupancy.
Okay, so they could keep a porta potty up there, because sometimes use and occupancy can take months.
I would not consider a porta potty a temporary structure. Temporary structure, it says has incidental to construction. That would be pool housing, equipment housing. Once
But they could keep all that up for months until they get the certificate of
Many months,
occupancy.
yeah.
Okay, then that's that was my
Yeah, it'd
question.
be like your utility mast, you know, if I had to put an outside utility panel out there, and some of that stuff you're not gonna break down until you get that sticker.
Okay,
okay. So my last one was ice cream truck.
I could use some ice cream right
I'll
now.
include that. You guys came up with definitions for food truck, trailer, ice cream truck, separated them out. It has to be included into chapter 9, but because we never finished the update to chapter 3, it didn't take
It
place.
didn't stick.
So I'll do the update to the chapter 9 as well, and include that with chapter 3, and we'll put it back on.
Do you have
Because
a
I thought we didn't
condition
work through
in the
the-
paragraph Y? It's just not on the table here.
I'm sorry.
I say we have conditions in paragraph Y, but ice cream truck is not listed on the table.
Okay.
Right. The only other thing I had, Rick, was on paragraph A, apartments. It reads apartments attached to a single family residence detached. I don't know what that attached versus detached is supposed to be there. One of those fits to be.
Yeah, so it's a single family home, not a duplex.
Apartments attached to a single family residence.
Single family detached home, like if you have just a regular, like if she added an apartment to her house. She has a single family.
And use it as
detached home.
short-term rental.
So my
Apartments
mother.
attached to a single family, that's attached to a single family residence. But it's
A
detached.
single family, it should be single family detached.
That's just wording.
So
because
then-
It's
so
the
then we get-
description of the type of home.
Then do we get rid of attached?
No, it's attached to a single family home.
What does detached mean then?
That's the type of residence it's attached to.
Single family detached residence.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so flip
yeah,
those.
flip flop those two
Yeah,
words.
All
child.
right, now I get it. Time for beer.
I think I'm stuck on ice cream now.
Well,
You
You
hadn't
better hurry. Oh,
mentioned
it's too
that.
late.
You had to bring it up.
Now I have to
Your
go
fault that I'm
get
never
some.
losing weight.
Okay, so how do I wrap this up here?
Quickly.
A motion to,
Is there any public comment? Is there anybody on that had public comment?
Karen, is there anything you would like to add prior to closing? And no, there's no public comment. There's no public on.
No, I think all you need to do is table the matter until the next meeting to give staff an opportunity to address the issues you've raised and to bring a document back to you that hopefully reflects and resolves the issues that you've brought up tonight.
All right, so somebody make a motion to table.
Before we do that, I would like to publicly thank Rick for all of the effort that he's put into all of this. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, that would be a motion to table as well, so.
okay, then I second it. Do we all have ayes, or no, or say yay? That was the motion to thank you, Rick.
Oh,
I'll do the motion to, close this session. What's the date
we have
today?
to table, you have to table stuff first.
What?
You have to do a motion to table things first.
Today's the 25th. I raised a motion to, table or to close the meeting on July 25th.
So actually, you want a motion to table the matter that you were discussing until the August meeting? And then you would second it, and then you would vote on it, and then you can adjourn the meeting if you're
So we-
finished with your
Are we
business.
actually tabling the review?
Yeah.
Of the zoning ordinance recommendations?
Article 3.
Correct.
Article 3?
Okay, so I move to table the revisions on Article 3 as were discussed until our August meeting.
Second,
Aye.
all votes?
Aye.
Aye.
Now we can close.
Now we can motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.
We got a lot done.
Did you turn us off?
Oh, no, the.
Wait a minute,
Good
wait,
night.
Good night. I have to
Karen,
find.
Thank you, Karen.